he is not into kids. I wouldn't be here today putting my reputation at risk as well. It's a load of nonsense. Ray James, if you don't want the money, if you're not suing for money, I know you have to sue for something. Sue for $1 and prove your case. It's all about the money, Dan. Always has been, always will be.
Breaking right now. Michael Jackson's bodyguard, Matt Fiddes, is hitting back at Channel 4's latest expose, many would say a dodgy expose, on the king of pop, Michael Jackson. Now, my personal story with this is quite an interesting one. I've gone on what the woke might call a bit of a journey when it comes to the allegations against Michael Jackson. I'm honest when I've changed my mind. I'm also honest when I've made mistakes, because as I've grown up in this business and I've seen the lengths that some go to destroy high-profile people, it has made me change my mind and just be much more wise when it comes to media witch hunts. However, Channel 4 has stood by Leaving Neverland, broadcasting part 2 in the UK last night, which is described as Surviving Michael Jackson. Watch.
I can't imagine how they didn't know.
All of my interactions with him were organized by people who worked for him and worked with him.
If the corporation facilitates abuse of children, then the corporation should be held liable.
What they're alleging is that Michael Jackson was a pedophile. That's not negligent.
A California jury in a box. That's their fear.
Judgment is entered for the defendants.
They're sending a message to all the other people they know are out there that he did this to shut the fuck up.
Now, as you can imagine, there has been a huge pushback from the Jackson estate, which is continuing to build a lot of business on the legacy of Michael Jackson. However, this trial is still due to go to court in California next year. Michael Jackson's bodyguards came under attack in this documentary. One of them, Matt Fiddes, is here to speak out exclusively in today's Uncancelled interview. Matt, so brilliant to have you. And we are going to talk a lot about your time with Michael Jackson, about the truth of Michael Jackson's existence, and even my journey on this in just a moment. But first, we have to start with the breaking news, Matt, because there were a lot of claims and counterclaims, which once again, last night, put Michael Jackson's bodyguards in the crosshairs of this. And I know you are very angry about these allegations, which are really now suggesting that people like you, who worked as bodyguards for Michael Jackson, were effectively covering up criminal behavior and pedophilia. How do you want to respond?
But let's get to the point with this. This is trial by media. There's no facts here whatsoever. We've seen a number of these programs come out now where there's no evidence, people using fake people, fake actors and so on. Now, I knew this man for over 10 years. I spent thousands of hours with this man. There is no way on this earth that any bodyguard is enabling him to molest children. Michael Jackson was not into children. I know he wanted the world to make him appear weird and strange and so forth, but everyone's fallen into his trap back then. Unfortunately, when he died, it backfired. And I know you've respectfully come to one of my events and you said yourself, for what you've experienced by mainstream media, you know, this might get me cancelled, but I don't care less because I love this man. He was a great friend of mine. And you got it wrong because the narrative is always thrown down your face and there's no facts on it. Michael's not here to defend himself. And when you go back right to the very beginning, when people always say Michael Jackson paid Geordie Chandler off in 1993. No, Michael wanted to fight this case. He was in the middle of a tour called Dangerous that was bringing in billions and billions. It was out of his hands. He had an insurance company who said, no, Mr. Jackson, we're going to pay this out for you. You're going back on the road and you can fight the criminal trial. Since that's happened, by the way, there was no criminal trial ever brought against Michael Jackson in 1993. since that's happened and the boy would not testify against Michael in a criminal trial, the law's changed now. No longer can you have a civil case first, then a criminal case in America. You have to have the criminal case first, then go after the money. Now, what you got here is Wade. I knew Wade. Wade's the same age as me, pretty much. I met him numerous times. And I'll tell you some stuff. Like around 2006, just after the trial was over, we were in a car with Michael. Wade called because he wanted to use Neverland to get married. Now, not being funny, Dan, if you've been molested as a child, you've got all this trauma attached to Neverland, why the hell would you want to spend one of the happiest days of your life getting married at Neverland? Now, he couldn't get married there because Michael said that Neverland was out of order. He shut the place down. He had financial troubles and so forth. But there's no facts to back any of this up. They seem to be, I understand that Michael was the first Me Too victim. They go hard after people. We've seen it with Kevin Spacey. We've seen it with Russell Brand. I can go on and on. Dan, we've seen it with you. We've seen what's gone on there with you. People are begging, trying to get eyeballs on mainstream media now, and it's dying. And you have to become more outrageous and more outrageous with your claims to get eyeballs on it. Because when you got platforms like this, where I can pretty much say what I want, I might get cancelled by mainstream media, but quite frankly, I couldn't care less anymore because I saw the figures last night. It was hardly anything. Less than 500,000 tuned into it. People have to remember, right, if these guys, Wade and James, are not in this for the money, why are they suing the estate for hundreds of millions of dollars? Why have they lost it? Appeal? Now they're going after the companies. They can't get Michael Jackson, so they're going after the companies and the people like me who knew him, who protected him and were his friends. All you have to do, if you want to prove your innocence, Dan, yes, you need to sue for money. Go and sue for $1. Wade and James, sue for $1. Prove your case if it's true, and then leave it alone. You don't have to sue for hundreds of millions of dollars. It's utterly ridiculous. And I think these channels and broadcasters need to start backing up stuff with facts. The other thing too, and I'm going to rant a little bit here because Michael was a very, very close friend of mine.
Do it.
What's going on. It's about time that you can't defame a dead person. For people watching this to understand, when you die, anyone can say anything about you and no one can sue. No one can do it. A family member can't do anything about it. So Michael's been dead now almost 16 years. You can say what you want. He can't, the state can't sue. No one can do anything at all, especially some random stuff like this. Now, why would I be here today? I've got 6 children. I've got one of the biggest children's organizations in the world. I stood by this man in 2005 through the child molestation allegation because I knew him. My kids stayed with him. We had hotel suites with him. He had girlfriends, Dan. He had wives. He was only into women. Go onto YouTube. You'll find videos of him pointing out the women he likes that he wants us to bring to his hotel room. He used to call them fish. That was his code. I like that fish, that fish. Why does everyone keep ignoring all this? Michael Jackson was not into young boys. It's utterly ridiculous. And wherever we go in the world, and I'm sure you've had experience of seeing I know you have, Dan, very, very high profile people. The first thing we do is we put a CCTV camera up on the hotel suite entrances to stop people coming in and to make sure Mr. Jackson's okay. And bear in mind, I was a friend before bodyguard, so I had a room inside the suite. The only people that were inside that room and the doors were locked when I couldn't get into the living room or into his bedroom is when he had a girlfriend in there. And they're not coming out because they've all been paid off, been told to sign NDAs and so on, and they don't want to be linked to all this, apart from a few of them. But because it goes against a narrative, mainstream media doesn't want to cover it. You know, a big news outlet called me the other day and said, we want to have your opinion on Michael. And I said, why don't you ring his girlfriend? She's published a book. It's clearly true that Michael Jackson's estate would have sued the girl, or Michael would have sued her because she published it when he was alive. There's pictures, there's evidence, but no one's interested. They believe in this absolute nutcase narrative that the biggest star in the world, who stayed relevant all those years, even now, he's still the biggest star in the world. I think Dan Reed, the documentary maker, admitted that yesterday on I won't give her any publicity, but a certain TV channel that you used to commentate on. Now, when you're the biggest star in the world, you're the biggest target in the world. When you're the man of the moment, everyone goes after you. And it's about time we stop allowing defamation of people that are dead. You should be able to say what you want. You need facts to back up. Stop making these TV program, a certain channel that keeps doing it over and over and over again. We saw it with Andrew Tate. I don't know those guys, but I do know Michael Jackson. And he is not into kids. I wouldn't be here today, put my reputation at risk as well. It's a load of nonsense. Wade James, if you don't want the money, if you're not suing for money, I know you have to sue for something, sue for $1 and prove your case. It's all about the money, Dan. Always has been, always will be.
And Matt, one of the things that a lot of folk point to when it comes to Wade Robson and James Safechuck is that in the past they had both defended Michael Jackson. Indeed, at the 2005 criminal trial, where, remember, Michael Jackson was found innocent, Wade Robson was really the star witness. He was probably the main person to get Michael Jackson off. Now, they claim that it was only much later in their life that they decided that they could open up about the relationship, because their relationship with Michael Jackson was so strong, they even felt like they were in love with him in a way.
Well, it's interesting how they you are right. They were the star witnesses. Wade was the first witness on because he's so strong. And this is a guy, he must have been like 24 back then. Yeah, he was the same age as me. And forget about the trial. Years later, after he was the star witness and Michael, a lot of people put it down to Wade Robson and Macaulay Culkin. But years later, when Michael passed away, Wade did a great tribute to Michael. And then also in 2012, there's a big show in Vegas, and Wade Robson met with John Branca, who's the head of Michael Jackson's estate, to try and convince him to be the director and be in charge of this Michael Jackson show, Circus du Soleil in Vegas. He didn't get the job. You can remember, Wade is known nothing but earning off the back of Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson introduced him to Britney Spears. He helped to get a job on MTV. I won't get into the Britney Spears thing too much, but there's a lot of controversy into that. Go and check it out. Also, Wade was dating Brandy Jackson. Now, Brandy is Michael Jackson's niece, Jackie Jackson's daughter. And he was at Neverland, and he said to Michael, I really fancy, I'm in love with Brandy, your niece. Any chance you can introduce me to her? Michael introduced Brandy Jackson, Jackie Jackson's son, his older brother, daughter to Wade, and they dated for like 7-8 years. They had a sexual relationship. So these two things don't add up. On one hand, he's saying he's being molested by Michael Jackson. On the other hand, Brandy Jackson has been on record that she dated and had a sexual relationship with Wade Robson for many, many years. Why isn't that in the documentary? Why isn't that in Surviving Neverland? It's whatever the hell they call it, Surviving Michael Jackson and Leaving Neverland. Why don't they mention the fact Wade dated Michael Jackson's niece? Goes completely against the narrative. It's just madness. I just don't understand where this world's got to, and it's very, very sad. And Matt, I think you're shocked. You've heard that yourself, Dan, have you?
Yeah, well, there have been also lots of examples of selective editing as well of Leaving Neverland. I just want to show one example of it and get you to respond. Yes, that one. But first, the reason you're watching this show is that it's becoming increasingly difficult to trust mainstream media or the so-called fact checkers who claim to determine which facts are true. And there's good reason for that, given the debate over free speech, the controversy surrounding Brexit, and how Trump and other politicians challenging the status quo are portrayed. But I have the solution for you. It's called Ground News, and it's the best way to stay informed and cut through media bias and narratives so you can get the facts for yourself. Go to ground.news/outspoken to check it out. But I want to show you this incredible website in action before I reveal a massive discount. So let's look at this game-changing speech by US Vice President J.D. Vance. It's actually been my favorite story over the past few weeks. He gave it to the Munich Security Conference. He tore into the European governments. He tore into the UK for taking free speech away, and it was beautiful. You can see on Ground News quite clearly that 361 sources covered this story. It then instantly shows how the story is covered by the media, but broken down by whether they lean to the left or the right. This is called the bias distribution service. If you scroll down, you can see every article about this topic broken down by the political position and ownership of the publication. We can see for ourselves quite clearly Newsmax and GB News gave fair and accurate coverage, focusing on how Vance finally had the guts to point out uncomfortable truths to European leaders. By stark contrast, the left-wing HuffPost claimed the speech left all of Europe aghast, while the Independent missed the lead altogether to focus on Vance's joke about Elon Musk, because they will do anything to slag off Elon Musk. What's more, Ground News gets to know you personally, providing you with the news stories you're interested in while also analysing your own biases. Now, my favourite feature is called the Blind Spot feed. This services upwards of 20 stories daily that you might not be hearing about because of the corruption of the mainstream media. So look, I know you love the news, but you don't trust the legacy media. Ground News gives you the tools to understand the truth about what is really going on in the world. It is the only way I read the news, allowing you to see through media bias and manipulative narratives. It's so good. So go to ground.news/outspoken to check it out. Subscribe through my link today for 40% off the Vantage plan, which is what I use for unlimited access. Ground News is subscriber funded, supporting my sponsors also supports my work, and for less than a Netflix subscription, you can get all the world's news in one place and think for yourself. This has been a game changer for a news junkie like me. So let me repeat the address: ground.news/outspoken. Or if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, you can use the QR code on screen right now or click on the link in the description box below. But now, back to the show.
We will land on you like a ton of bricks. We will land on you like a hammer. If you do anything to besmirch this man's reputation, anything to intrude on his privacy in any way that's actionable, we will unleash a legal torrent like you've never seen.
Michael called, and I hadn't talked to him in a really...
So what you can see going on there, Matt Fiddes, is selective editing of Mark Garagos to the point where it makes it look as if he was making this wide, unbridled threat. We're going to come after you if you say anything. Actually, he was specifically referring to anything that invaded Michael Jackson's privacy. But that selective editing, and we've seen this a lot with Donald Trump and Kamala Harris over the last election and the mainstream media, that selective editing actually changes the meaning, and it's almost trying to rewrite history. Are you concerned about that?
So Mark Garagos was Michael Jackson's first attorney, solicitor, lawyer, depending on where you're watching this from, in the trial against Gavin Avizo. And he's addressing the media there saying, you go and write nonsense, we're going to sue you. He's talking to the media. Obviously, when you watch that, when it's been edited for Leaving Neverland, and Mark Garagos was very angry about this, by the way, and he did a statement about this, it looks like he's threatening Wade and James that we'll go after you or any of you accusers. He's actually talking to the media in general. Don't write nonsense about our client or we will sue you. Well, what the cost? They had enough of it back then. But yeah, editing, misediting going on. I mean, the Russell Brand thing. I don't know Russell, but when you watch that, you've got women who are actors playing women. You've got no names, no criminal charges, from what I understand. They almost ruined the guy. You know, lucky enough, he's probably strong enough to get through all this. He was cancelled everywhere, just like you were, Dan. Your thing was ridiculous, by the way, but this was an absolute crazy, fearful thing for him to go for. I can't even imagine it. But you'll find it's desperation, I believe, for mainstream media to get eyeballs so they can turn around and sell advertising. This is how bad it's getting now. Michael's dead. He can't defend himself. Bless him. He's gone. Media flipping killed him. They drove him mad. And the drugs and the doctors and so forth. They got to remember too, people look at Michael and they think, oh, he's wearing makeup. He's got one glove. His trousers are too small. He wears a face mask and shades. He puts sticky tape on his nose. Well, you've just fallen into his trap. He was a genius marketer. Behind closed doors, when all that was off, you had a normal human being who was very shrewd. We used to get to hotel rooms and say, right, how can we make the front pages? What can I do? The tape on his nose, Dan, was not his nose falling off. It was allergy tape. He wanted the media to roll with that narrative because he knows the billions it would make him. He didn't want also anyone to know if he's gay or if he's straight, because he got taught by Motown from a young age, don't let your fans know because it will kill your fan base by half. You've got to stay neutral. Towards the end, he started to let people in, but obviously he made the fatal mistake of letting Martin Bashir into his life. I was actually in that initial meeting.
Yeah.
Martin pitched.
What happened there? Because turned out to be such a dodgy guy, Martin Bashir.
Well, no one believed me for years, Dan. I used to say it was just me, Matt Fiddes. I won't name his other friends, so I haven't got their permission. Another very famous person in the meeting, an assistant of that famous person, and Michael. Michael wanted me to sit in it. He had three choices: Louis Theroux, Sir David Frost, Michael knew Sir David Frost too, and Martin Bashir. We wanted him to go with Sir David Frost, but he was obsessed with meeting Martin Bashir because of the Princess Diana connection. Michael Jackson and Princess Diana were close friends. We go into the hotel suite. I remember the hotel. It's called the Renaissance Hotel in Higher Holborn in London at the time. And we sit there. Martin comes in and he says, Michael, I am going to put everything straight. I'm going to knock out these stupid rumors about child molestation. I'm going to show the real you, your genius of publicity, your music, your art, your dance, your creativity. We're going to talk about your childhood, what it's like to be Michael Jackson moving around. Michael he wasn't completely sold. Then Martin reaches to his pocket and he gets out this very scrumpled handwritten letter, hands it to Michael. Michael reads it, and Michael loved Diana. He said that was his perfect wife. And he read it out and he's like, wow. And basically the letter said, thank you, Martin, for changing my life, my image. You've done wonders for me, and so on. I won't go into more details on that because it's very private. But it was basically praising Bashir. After he handed the letter back to Bashir, Michael said, I want you. And we left that room and we thought Michael Jackson, being the powerhouse, was going to wrap Martin Bashir in big law firms, legal documents, and stop anything happening. And he screwed him. Now we know, all these years later. I've been telling the media this for years. I was there in that meeting. Only three of us and Michael Jackson. I witnessed the BS coming out of Bashir's mouth. Now everyone's like, why didn't you speak out sooner? But I couldn't get it printed. No matter how many interviews I gave at the time, it went against the narrative. It went against it. Now we all know it's true. And I'm hoping one day, just like they did a Princess Diana investigation, they'll do a Michael Jackson investigation with Bashir too, because he deserves it. He deserves to be outed.
That would be fascinating, actually.
Well, you want to go watch that. People watching this show, they need to go watch, go into YouTube and put Michael Jackson, the footage you were never meant to see. Whenever Michael was alive, he recorded his life. He believed if life's worth living, it's worth recording. So he wanted to record his life for his kids and so on. He had cameras rolling the whole time Bashir was interviewing. Bashir forgot about them. So they released a documentary after this came out. And it literally shows, like Martin would say on his program, Living with Michael Jackson, Neverland is a creepy place. Seeing Michael with children. And then behind the scenes, we've got Michael Bashir saying, Michael, you're so amazing with Neverland. What you're doing for children every year is incredible. Busting in 20,000 children a year for Make-A-Wish Foundation. It completely contradicts it. But unfortunately, positive media doesn't sell. The negative one got 50 million views, where the real truth only got a few million views, unfortunately. But
really interesting. And look, sometimes I think, Matt, it's the small details that matter as well. And look, I understand in society, we've always felt like, oh, we can never question a victim. But, and certainly this is something where I've done a total 180 after being falsely accused myself. These people are not victims. They are accusers, and they should not be called victims. And the problem is, you do have to question what they say. So one small example on James Safechuck, right? He, in the interview, mentioned a train station at Neverland when this abuse he claimed was taking place between November 1987 and January 1990. But Matt, the planning documents show that the train station wasn't even built until September 1993. So I guess you could say, oh, maybe his memory has changed or he's seen the pictures of the train station. But unfortunately, those small details matter, don't they?
Not only was it the planning document showed it wasn't built, there was actually Elizabeth Taylor, the movie star, got married at Neverland. So the aerial shots so clearly it was not built. And we're not talking by a couple of years, Dan. We're talking like he would have been in his like mid-20s by this point. So it was a complete disaster. There's many of these examples, like Wade Robson not going to the Grand Canyon and being left with Michael, where apparently there's pictures showing him that he was at the Grand Canyon. But yeah, it's a hatchet job. It's very sad for people like me to see. And when they start attacking us too, I have to speak out. I've turned down all mainstream media interviews. Some of the bigger ones are friends of yours as well, because I want to be getting this across. I don't want to be screaming with the panelists who trying to get their objective across because they didn't know Michael Jackson like I did. You know, I wouldn't be here. I've got 6 kids. You know, I'm putting my own name on the line here. The guy was wonderful. Yes, he was eccentric, but most superstars are. Most creative geniuses are very different to us. He couldn't go out. You can't even imagine what his life was like. He was just paparazzi everywhere he went. He's never, even when he had to shop, he couldn't do it. In fact, we actually created a fake shopping experience for him once where all his staff were dressed up and he went to shopping in California. It was an unusual life. But another thing, Dan, too, Neverland was built not for Michael Jackson. He built that because he wanted to give back to charities like Make-A-Wish Foundation. It's estimated over 20,000 children per year will bust through Neverland as an experience for them. 6 children. Are you telling me those 20,000 kids bust through? We've got 2 guys who were basically funded by Michael most of their life. Just 2 guys. That's it. Gavin Avizo, that was found not guilty. That was complete nonsense. And the Geordie Chandler one, I've already explained to you what happened there, where Michael thought he was going to have a criminal case to fight and prove his name when he got back from the Dangerous tour. Now, I wouldn't want money, Dan. I wouldn't want money. If someone tried to molest my children or molesting my kids, I won't even tell you on this show what I'm going to do because I will get cancelled.
Yes.
I'm going to show you. I wouldn't want money. I would not want money.
Okay. No, I totally get that. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.